Despite the title that you just saw, I promise I will make this video as family friendly as possible. So, No Hard Feelings is a new comedy starring Jennifer Lawrence as a 32-year-old woman who was hired by rich parents to date their socially awkward son who basically has no real life friends, and despite going to Princeton has not lived life to a really good extent, and his parents are afraid that he will be socially destroyed in Princeton if he does not gain some life experiences. And they put out an ad saying that, hey, if you can date our son, all you parents out there know what I mean by saying date, then they will give that person a Buick. Now, Jennifer Lawrence plays the character of Maddie. Maddie is let's put it this way, she's aimless in life. She has a house that is threatened to be taken away by the government for not paying property taxes, and she has basically a few months to pay those taxes back or she will lose the house. She sees this ad and has a disdain for rich people because rich people buying properties around her is what's causing her property taxes to go up. But she decides, hey, if they're going to cause me trouble, I can cause them trouble. So I will date their son and I will get this Buick. Therefore, I can continue Ubering so I can make money to pay these property taxes. So right off the bat, what makes this character interesting is that she's not just some floozy who's looking for a handout. Her reward in all of this is a car so that she can basically get back to the low-wage paying Ubering job. And Ubering is a low-wage paying job, believe me. She can dig herself out of her own situation. This is definitely different from the sex comedies of the 80s where the reward was a lot of money and the male was going to take that money and do something extravagant. Now, maybe there's an argument to be made that, of course, the men in the 80s, they get a big paycheck and they can start a business or something, whereas Maddie here basically gets a Buick so she can go back to her crummy Ubering job. Maybe that's a complaint. I don't know. But of course, she accepts the deal, and the humor comes in with her actually trying to date this kid. And I say kid, but he's 19 years old, so he's of legal age. There's nothing here, despite what the pre-critics or the keyboard warriors before this movie came out said. This is not a problematic setup. I mean, yeah, there's an agreement that the guy is not aware of, and yeah, she's basically pushing a little bit, but nothing ever crosses over the line of non-consensual, and it's all funny. And honestly, this kid is so awkward. Sometimes it's maybe he needs to be pushed a little bit to open up a little bit more because he has just clearly been coddled from day one. And even she comments several times that she is frustrated. How have you lived through life? What are you going to do? Your mommy and daddy is not going to be there forever. And so a lot of the humor comes from her attempting to seduce him. And he is just not seducible. He just hasn't lived in the real world. There's this memorable scene that a lot of people are talking about where they go skinny dipping, and while they are going skinny dipping, there are some rowdy college kids who are taking away the beach clothes, and basically they're going to take them away or something like that. And the kid, he doesn't want to do anything about it. He just wants to call mom and dad, and Jennifer Lawrence gets out of the water fully naked and just starts pummeling these people. And this scene has gotten a lot of attention for a couple of reasons. One, it is, to my knowledge, Jennifer Lawrence's first nude scene. She has famously never bared all before, and now she is bearing not just a little, she is bearing a lot. And so that would normally be a big deal. But the other thing is that It's used for a scene that is very comedic in nature. It's just funny to see this nude woman just beating the stuffings out of these guys. And she basically does not care about the current situation. They're going to take her clothes away. She's going to beat them up. It doesn't matter what they see or not. And then she just goes back in the water as if this whole thing really didn't happen or wasn't that big of a deal. So I will say that this movie has balls. That way. This movie has balls. I wish there were more like it, because that scene shows that this movie could really go all out and do some really crazy stuff if it wanted to. But believe it or not, I think because of the age difference, and despite the controversy that took place before the movie was released about it, I think it's because of that age difference that the movie does not go as hard, get it, as it probably could have. It is a raunchy movie, and there are, let's just say, romantic uses of the F word thrown around here and there. This is true. But overall, the movie actually is a little bit more sweet than anything, as the two develop like a real friendship, and she actually starts to fall for this guy, and he starts to fall for her, and the age difference doesn't seem to really bother them, which that's actually the most interesting aspect. This kid is so sheltered and has been so coddled, has never done anything for himself, that the age difference is the one thing that doesn't really register. He's more concerned that he's not good enough to be with a woman than he is the fact that she's 11 or 12 years, maybe 13 years older than him. It's very interesting, and kind of like how I think it was last year The Lost City came out, with Sandra Bullock basically being much older than Channing Tatum, and it wasn't really a thing, except for his parents basically commenting that she's a little older than they would have liked. When it comes to the two of them, the age is really not something that's discussed, and I think that was very, very interesting. I laughed a lot, and I thought it was sweet, and I think the ending made perfect sense in the grand scheme of things. It's not going to be a movie for everyone, because it is a little harder than usual, and because it's just hard enough to alienate those people, I wish it had gone a little farther and truly been a comedy goldmine, but them's the breaks. So even though it's kind of become almost routine at this point, I am going to give No Hard Feelings 3.5 stars. It is very funny. It's, in my opinion, definitely worth seeing if you like these kind of comedies, and I'm hoping that it will kind of harken a return to the R-rated sex comedy that used to be so popular in the 80s before, fundamentalist Christian groups really got them out of the theaters. Although, interestingly, nowadays, it's the far leftists that seem to want the sex comedies out of the theater, so it's interesting how the pendulum swings. Either way, I really enjoy them when they're done right, and if you want an example of a movie that did a lot better with a kind of a similar premise, but maybe not really a similar premise, but a movie that really went really far for it and definitely achieved what it set out to achieve, it would be Superbad. Obviously, this movie committed to its R rating, to its raunchiness, and No Hard Feelings doesn't quite commit as much as I think it would like to, but I think it commits enough, and it ended up being kind of a sweet little movie at the end of the day. So that's my review of No Hard Feelings. Did you see it? What do you think of this movie? Comment below. Like, favorite, share, subscribe, and as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one.